Hey everybody. Hope things are good. This is a pleasure doing this podcast, and today's an extra pleasure on the show that's called Bob Saget's Here for You. I don't know how we came up with the title at the time when I started at the beginning of 2020. The idea was to give people some solace because I was already feeling people feeling hurt and torn and going through so much inner turmoil through 2018, 2019, as I toured the country and as I interacted with people. And then here we come with COVID. And I started doing the podcast in concept before we were quarantined, before COVID hit the United States. So this is a fully intentioned thing and organic, and I love doing it. And I especially love today's episode with an old friend who is incredibly talented. And I don't know anyone that doesn't love this man, Joe Mantegna, such a great actor and a great human being. And also just to do a little business, do what you do, you rate, review, you subscribe, or you follow, watch it on the YouTube. If you haven't seen that, you want to, I don't know who's on there, and leave a nice comment, or constructive criticism, not just evil, vile comments with pictures of your butthole. And that's at, youtube.com/Bob Saget. And I'll be on tour, hopefully, in the months ahead. That's the plan as we come out of this difficult time and people are able to go out again into the maybe end of summer, into the fall. And that's at bobsaget.com. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring out a person who I met years ago on a Richard Pryor movie called Critical Condition. And we've stayed friends ever since, even though we don't get to see each other much. But when we do, it's nothing but love because he's amazing. So many great films, I'm searching for Bobby Fischer, Godfather 3, Joey Zaza in Godfather 3. I don't know, Fat Tony on The Simpsons. It's really hard to keep up with how much content this man has put out that you all love. Of course, 13 years of Criminal Minds. And he's also going to tell us what's up and coming from him in the future because he's one of the more talented actors that exists. So without any further ado, here is Joe Mantegna.
Bob Saget, how are you?
Joey.
Right, yeah.
Joseph, were you Joseph at birth?
Well, my birth certificate says that, but no, my father was Joseph. Well, no, he was Joe. We were both Joe, but on the birth certificate it says Joseph. But I never went by Joseph.
My mother's name was Bob.
Oh, really? Well, it doesn't surprise me. Why doesn't that not surprise me?
I don't know, because I'm strange. So I haven't seen you, and I don't like that. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's my fault.
No, it's not. No. It's neither of our fault. It's the way of the world, especially right now.
Yeah. Now we know that. But I went by your place in the Valley, Taste of Chicago, and then right. That was probably 6 months before you closed it, something like that.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's been over a year now. But it was great. We had a good run. We had 16 years with it. And then, the restaurant business, you either got to go big or go home. So we went home, It was we weren't about to try to be Burger King or anything like that. So it was great, good time. We had a good time with it.
Well, you're not alone now because so many people, are in that boat.
Our timing was actually good. My wife closed it like probably 6 months before the COVID thing happened. So
otherwise, you'd be trying to do parking lot seating and takeout.
Yeah,
and
no.
That ain't you.
No. Forget that. No.
So this is like, just so people know, you and I met on a Richard Pryor movie in 1986. We shot it in 86, right?
86, that's right. Yeah.
Critical Condition.
Right.
It was so amazing to meet you, and we hit it off immediately.
Yeah. Amidst the most bizarre cast ever assembled of human beings, I think, in a movie. I mean, and in the High Point, North Carolina, is like There's the furniture show, the big chair, and us.
You made this thing up, and the cast, just so they know, Marjorie Simpkin was the casting director in this movie, and I've stayed friends with Marjorie over the years, and I was on an open audition in front of Michael Apted. It was my first decent thing, and it was a Richard Pryor movie, and it's you and Rachel Ticotin and Ruben Blades and Randall Tex Cobb and Sarah Miles and Joe
D'Alessandro,
and then
right,
and the emergency.
I know who you mean.
They needed somebody to play an emergency vehicle driver,
right.
and it was Wesley Snipes, because he had just had had a baby, so that she gave him the job.
Right.
It just had a lot of people in it. It was strange and fun.
Yeah, it was, and diverse people. I mean, so yes, the Sylvia Miles and Randall Tex Cobb were like opposite ends of the same stick, and then we were everything else filled in between us. Wild.
And you had
good time though, great time.
It was an amazing time, and you'd been coming off of, well, at that time you'd already won the Tony for Glengarry Glen Ross, right?
Yeah, it really was one of my first films afterwards. In fact, I just finished the national tour of Glengarry at that point with Peter Falk. We'd done 6 months on the road, and it literally was the first thing I did after that. So I think, the only other movie I'd done prior to Critical Condition was Compromising Positions, which was really kind of like my first kind of legit movie kind of role. And then I was still doing Glengarry at that time. I remember at the time, the whole cast they used all kind of people who were currently working on Broadway. That was kind of like the gimmick, But there was Susan Sarandon, myself, there was Raul Julia, whatever. But I think Critical Condition was right just the next film I did.
And that was 1984 is when you won the Tony Award.
1984, yeah.
And how many years did you do that on Broadway?
Well, I got lucky with that because I won the Tony Award in '84, and the show had only been running at that point, maybe about 3 months. And then the show won the Pulitzer Prize. So from that point on, the show ran for about a year. So I was able to do, the way it was fortunate is I'm able to kind of do the Tony Award winning role in the Pulitzer Prize winning show. So literally every director and casting director in the planet saw the play, which kind of gave me a nice jump start after 15 years of banging around, So I couldn't have written a better script for myself, because winning the award it's nice, it's fun. Yeah, you win a Tony Award, it's great, it's an honor. But what you really want to be able to do is kind of show the work that they gave you that thing for, and that doesn't often happen in the play. A movie's there forever, but the play is, you don't go see it, but it's gone, So I was able to do that show for about a year on Broadway, and then 6 months on the tour.
Did you end up in Chicago? Because I watched you on a talk show, and your mom didn't want to come to New York and said she would see it with what was the person's name she was going to see it with in Chicago?
My Aunt Lolly, her sister. Well, that was so great. My mother, God bless her, she lived to be 101. And I think till the day she died, she didn't really know what I did for a living, and it didn't matter, So it was like so of course she watched the Tonys. I told her to watch, and she did, and I thanked her. I mean, my last three words on the show were, I thank my wife Harleen, my mother Marianne, and I think I thanked the girl Cordis Hurd, who let us sleep on the floor of her apartment in New York while we were in New York, because you don't know, you're going to New York with a show, you don't know if it's going to be a hit. So anyway, now I won the Tony, shows won a Pulitzer, and I'm thinking, well, no, I guess it's time. Maybe I call my mother and have her bring her out. So I call my mother, Mom, I'm going to fly you out. Come see the play, on Broadway. She goes, well, you're going to do it in Chicago? I go, well, yeah, I mean, eventually we're going to tour the country probably with it. Well, I'll see you with your Aunt Lolly. We'll see it when you come to Chicago. That'd be nice. And I'm thinking, she got a point. It'll be nice, I guess. She could sit with Lolly, I was going to fly Lolly in too, but I thought I don't want to be too much confusion. So, but that was my mom. She never quite understood what I did. But in fact, the best line she had was when I got the series Criminal Minds, which wound up lasting 13 years. She calls my brother. because now up to this point, she'd always heard like, hey, watch Joey on this or watch Joey on that. You could see him in this movie or blah, blah, blah. So then I get the series, and my mother calls my brother, and who's 8 years older than me, and she goes, what is it? And she goes, I'm worried about Joey. And my brother Ron goes, why? She goes, he's only working an hour a week.
She really had no idea that you have to edit it. You have to
no. She had no clue. She just figured, before I was kind of going around the country, traveling the world, and doing this. I'd be away. I'd be in Russia. I'd be in Canada. I'd be in Europe. Mom, I'm on this movie for 3 months. I'll see you when I get back. Stuff like that. But now she sees I'm on this TV show once a week,
right.
And it's like, oh my God. She looks at her clock. It's on from 9 to 10. What is he doing the rest of the time? Is he like, got another job for those other 6 days? So my brother had to tell her, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. The hour a week is.
Hey, Ma, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's fine. He's doing good.
Was she born in America, or was she?
She was. All my grandparents were born in Italy, but my father died when I was fairly, I was like 1971 when I was doing my first job, play hair in 1969.
I remember all this. We talked about this too, and I've also seen it on shows. And your mother came and saw you naked, and what was her response of seeing you naked in hair?
Well, first of all, the whole cast was kind of amazed that I even had my mother show up, because a lot of them were like, they don't tell their parents they're even doing the play. Of course, my mother came. Not only my mother, she came with her father, my grandfather. And wearing his hat, and they was fantastic. She comes, after the play, she stops backstage, and she goes, so how'd you like the play? She goes, oh, nice, and you look nice. You got a good body. Some of these kids are out of shape, because we had that one momentary nude scene. I thought, well, that's my mom. And the other cast members couldn't believe that my mother was like, she wanted us to get up close. In fact, probably to see how, how
that
well
also
I've done.
sit in the front row. Sit in the front row with binoculars.
Yeah.
What's great is that your mom was a solid mom. There wasn't anything creepy about it to see your son like that. But that you know how cool that is, because there's other people.
Oh, yeah.
My mother would have never been able to see that. It would have been, and I think other people couldn't have wanted to see that of me either. But if I did puppetry of the penis, my mother would not be there.
Picketing outside the theater. Stop this. No, he was very old school Italians. I mean, they were like, hey, that side of, my father was Sicilian and my mother was Barese. If anybody was Italian would get that. It's almost like a mixed marriage.
Where in Sicily? My wife is half Sicilian, and we went to a lot of places there.
Well, the town is called Calasciabetta, which is dead center in the middle of Sicily, like, as it's an island, and it's dead center at the top of a mountain.
Oh, we talked about this. We talked about this. Yeah.
And I thought how weird that was. I thought, what drove my family to live on this beautiful island and then find the spot that is farthest from the water that they could possibly get? And I'm thinking, well, I don't, and that's why I think he ultimately immigrated to America, because he thought the only thing you could grow on this mountaintop was old. I mean, it was just rock. It was just, he couldn't, but I think he wanted to be a farmer. And so he went to America, and that's a whole other story. He went to Oklahoma, this town called Krebs, which has had, to this day, has a sign that says Krebs, Oklahoma's Little Italy, because all these immigrants, many from the same town in Sicily, came there at the turn of the last century and bought farmland from the Native Americans. And we still own the farm. It's still in my family, 50-acre farm in Krebs, Oklahoma. And the building is still, I got hit by a tornado, so the building's kind of wrecked. It was made out of wood, the house my father was born in.
Right.
But it's just a pile of wood. But my grandfather built it, and there's pieces of railroad ties that he used wood to build a house. I mean, it's amazing. But
now to be in Sicily and being my wife's family is in Ciamina. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's a real small town, like 3,000 people.
Where is it, on the coast?
No, it's down the mountain from where you were. You go to Palermo, and then you start heading toward what's that gorgeous place on the coast?
Taormina.
Yeah.
Taormina?
So it's in between Palmero and then getting to Taormina.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I drove there and I ended up renting some SUV without realizing that the streets are as big as your table. And
Yeah.
so there were times where I couldn't go. And then we had to just leave the car on the street. And then there's no doors. It's drapes. You just walk through drapes. It was so charming and so old world. But I'm thinking if you're on higher ground, it's because you want to protect yourself. It sounded like,
Well, that's what I wondered. And I'm
right.
thinking, what's the real story here? But it was great. I mean, it was a great adventure. I mean, and on my mother's side, which is, I say Barese, because meaning the big town is Bari, which is in Puglia, which is on the east coast of Italy, across from, like, on the opposite side of Naples. And I'm very close to that family, to my mother's side, because they prospered. I got cousins there. I go there when my one cousin owns what they call an agriturismo, which is like you turn a farm into a hotel, like a bed and breakfast. My cousin
Nice.
Nicola has one there. And so I'm very close to that. There's not many of the Sicilian side left in Cala Civetta. There's a couple left. But one guy had a donkey, and the donkey was in the house with him, and it had dirt floor. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, good thing Grandpa got out when he did.
That's no donkey. That's my wife.
There you go.
So now when I met you, it was like, holy shit. Cause I didn't see Glengarry, but I'd seen you in some things. Cause you'd been on you were on shows that I was on, but you were obviously more
Could
involved.
be. I'd done some TV spot stuff.
I did a Bosom
I did like 8
Buddies.
episodes of soap.
But you did a Bosom Buddies. You did a
Bosom
Greatest
Buddies, I
American
did.
Hero. Greatest American
Uh-huh.
Hero. I did. That's
Yep.
like about all I did before
Mhm.
Critical Condition. But you've done 100 damn movies and TV shows. You look at your IMDb, and it's like it's an amazing thing to look at.
I'm old. I've been doing it a
Well,
long
you're not
time.
old. You're
You get there.
amazing. No, but there's
Well, you
people that
get
are
there.
old that got 6 things on there.
Well,
It's not quantity.
No, I know. Well, the thing is, I'm a worker bee. I do feel that. I mean, that's
Right.
the body side of me. I mean, it's like lavora. That's it. And that's our. What would I do? Golf. I mean, I like the golf and I like these other things, but I'd rather be just doing something. And like, I don't watch TV or go to the movies. I really don't. I'm not hip on all the movies. I'm not hip on all the TV shows, but I like doing them. I like the process. I like the camaraderie. I like the environment. I mean, let's face it. Look what we do for a living. We play pretend. For the
I'm
most
about
part.
to do one now, and I can't wait to call everybody sir. Not everybody. I mean, miss.
Yeah.
I got to be.
Yeah.
But it's a very
Right.
respectful world when it's done right. And that's
Absolutely, and it's such a good time. Well, look at it. We're talking right now, you and I, based on this memories we had, in 1985.
and when I started talking to you, because I missed you, because we're all kind of resetting during this time and going,
Right.
who do I love? Who do I love that I haven't communicated with? That's all I have for you, and Arlene.
God bless you. I feel exactly the same way for you, Bob. You know that.
That's the only reason I said that, so I could hear that.
No, it's true.
I just
Well,
wanted to
people
get it
say
on right.
because people think because you're in this business, they think, well, God, everybody in Hollywood, and like, so what's, and they'll throw out names. So, what's Leonardo DiCaprio like? I mean, I don't know. I never met him, but what you tell them is, what I often tell them is, I say, look, you run across a lot of people in this business. Each project you do, there'll be a massive people, actors, crew, and then it ends. But I says, but along the way, if you're lucky, and it doesn't happen all the time, but you make a friend that will then last for life. There will be that one or two, if you're lucky, two in that group that it continues. In other words, but most of the time you don't see that person again until maybe you run into them again in another project. You can't make best friends with everybody, but occasionally you do. And I mean, that's where you fit in. Andy Garcia and I became that way on Godfather 3.
Mm-hmm.
I could pick and choose, but it's not a ton of people. It's just the various ones. Oh,
is there somebody I could say hi to?
Yes, it is. Come here. It's my wife, Arlene, who you know.
Arlene.
No, come on. Look, there's Bob. Look,
Arlene, are you okay? Hey, beautiful.
Look at the sign. Wait, look at the sign. She's putting it. I need $100 cash. Wait.
I gotta leave.
Oh my God.
Normally you don't get.
Here's a big time actor for you. Here's what a big time actor does. Here, let me pull out this wad. There's a 20.
And here's the money.
Oh, wait, that's a 50.
Oh, that.
Wait a
okay, that's
minute.
good.
And it's 250. There
How
you go,
in
honey.
the pandemic?
Thank you. Bye, honey.
Love you,
Have a
Arlene.
good day. There
Arlene,
you
what's the
go.
$100 for?
It's for a table. If she hasn't seen yet, we're hoping that it's
It's
nice.
a work table. It's a big, huge work table, and it's just what we need for the.
Oh, yeah, we
warehouse,
need
but
it.
That's another.
That's another story. Yes,
Okay.
for the work.
That's perfect.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
gonna change our lives.
I know. Thank you.
I just don't want to.
I understand. I understand. Say no more.
Thank you. I knew this was gonna be embarrassing.
It's fine. That's fine.
Love you, Arlene.
Good. That's
She
my
came
life.
in with a sign. I need 100.
What the
Normally,
fuck?
that kind of
Well,
sign
because
does not come from your wife. It comes from someone
Well,
else.
yeah, exactly. But because she didn't want to interrupt me, so she creaked the door open and kind of put the thing up, like hoping that I would just, like I'm supposed to, like you wouldn't notice me going, oh yeah, passing money like 100 this way, which would be worse.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
you had a habit or you had to.
Yeah, exactly.
you
Reach
was
on
it,
the corner.
are you 52 years together? Something like that?
Yes, we are. 1969.
I'm
was
telling you,
when
I
we
watched you all night last night. I know.
You did. You must have.
I got everything. I got it all. Because
Wow, you do have it all.
all it did was make me love you more. And that's why Criminal Minds went 13 years. I mean, it had 2 years before it going, and here you came into that. And it was it's a juggernaut. It was one of the biggest things and a revolving door for actors that were all over the place. So, I mean, people want to know, and we're talking about it, and I'm going to go all over the place because that's, so Mandy Patinkin had started in it, and then you came in and he left. What was, and when you came in that third season, they really spent time introducing you. The watch goes on, the ring goes on, the ceremony of who you are. We find out in that episode, I watched that episode of who is this character. And so what was that experience like? Was there, I know you, but was there, people would want to know, was there any unusualness in fitting the shoes of somebody else and knowing that you were going to be the guy?
Yeah. I first of all, I didn't feel like I was fitting. I often use baseball as an analogy to my life because I like baseball and I feel like in many ways what we do parallels it. So my feeling was, here was a team, and pick your favorite team. So if you're a Yankee fan, well, you're the Yankees, or the Yankees of the 50s. One guy leaves, they lose their center fielder, and then they hire another center fielder. Now he's going to be playing the same position, but it's a whole different human being. You know what I mean? So
it's Tom Brady. Right, it just happened. Yeah,
there's an analogy there that you use for football, whatever sport you want. So in other words, my job is to fill that slot. And the other thing was, even though I was going to be I knew I was going to be number one on the call sheet, that kind of thing, that because that was the kind of slot that Mandy had occupied. But I felt that from the beginning when I looked at the episodes, because I had to look at the episodes before I joined the show, because when I got the offer, I hadn't seen the show.
Right.
I said, well, let me look at some of the episodes, see what this thing is. And what I was taken by was how much of an ensemble it was and how good all the individuals were. And what I was able to watch were the episodes they had done without Mandy. That, in other words, they were scrambling in a way because he kind of left unexpectedly. And so they had to do about 3 or 4 episodes without him. And I watched those episodes and I thought, there were 6 actors at that time, were so solid and so well written, and the talent of them I thought was so blatant.
Right.
I said when I finally met with the showrunner, Ed Bernero, who was a Italian former Chicago cop, which is like,
oh, that's the end of that.
The only bad thing was he was a Sox fan and I was a Cubs fan. Otherwise, it would have been the triple, the grand slam. But it was okay. We got over that. But I told him when I met with him, when I finally watched those episodes, I said, I got to tell you, I think you got a real solid show here, but it's an ensemble. I said, I would like to become a part of it, but I don't need to lead the parade. You don't have to make it like it's like, this character, which ultimately was David Rossi, it was like David Rossi and his gang. I said, this is not House or Magnum PI where it's based on one guy and then everybody else kind of fills in. I said, this is an ensemble and I'm happy to. In fact, the way I saw my characters, I said, I want to be like Dr. Smith on Lost in Space. I want to be that curmudgeon-y kind of guy that just every once in a while says, "What?" Kind of mixes it up, and sometimes they look to for some semblance of maturity, if possible.
But Dr. Smith never put on a bullet. Dr. Smith never raided a room with a gun and a bulletproof vest, so that you were a little bit more macho than Dr. Smith.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more.
You didn't blame the kid. Dr. Smith would blame William.
I didn't blame the kid. No, exactly. But it all worked out. And my goal was to just kind of, in a way, kind of calm the waters. My feeling was that when you become number one on the call sheet, that's a responsibility. In other words, you set the tone. If you're a jerk, now you've allowed everybody to be a jerk. But hopefully, if you can kind of set a tone of like, hey, we're all here to have a good time. So it's a tough job. Let's make it as much fun as possible, because every minute you see on screen, there's 59 minutes that are you creating it. That's what people forget. They watch a show. They don't realize it took you, in our case, 8 days to make that, and a lot of time and energy put into it. So you want to make that environment as good and fun and enjoyable and comfortable as possible. And that was always been my goal, But, hey,
well, that's what attracted me to you when I met you, because it was you're just it trickles down from the top, and you're just a good man. You're just this wonderful guy, and you were cracking me up. I mean, you are not by rote a stand-up comedian, but your demeanor is, I mean, it's no odd thing that you've played so many gangsters or guys from the street, Italian guys from Chicago. I mean, is that kind of always what you've been like, even as a kid?
I had good role models in that way. I think, again, going back to even like my mother and the fact that, like I say, that she didn't quite know what I did for a living. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I had my Uncle Willie. Who was like since my dad died when I was like 21, 22, he became like a surrogate dad to me. And this is one of my mother's 4 brothers. And all 4 of her brothers were World War II vets, but all characters. They all thought they were Dean Martin. I mean, that's half the reason why I took that role and enjoyed playing it.
Yeah, and the HBO show of the Rat Pack. You were so great in that. I had
great guys to emulate, the real Dean Martin. Plus, I had these 4 uncles that all thought they were Dean Martin.
He was my favorite too. So once you put the jacket and the cufflinks are in, and the hair is done.
Oh, yeah, well. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I loved doing that role, and I got to be close to members of the family because of doing that and all that. But that's the. And
that was Don Cheadle and Bill Peterson, and you had so many good actors.
Yeah. No, we had a great time on that. Playing Dean Martin.
Yeah.
I remember on the last day of shooting that, I looked at the guys and I said, "Do we really have to stop? Let's take it on the road. Let's do 6 months in Vegas. Come on."
Maybe today they might make a short-term series out of it if it was done today, because it's a different world. They might make 6 episodes if it was today.
Yeah, well, I would be playing Dean like in the final days then, when his hair went white and everything else. He had the big glasses.
I saw him then. He used to go to the Hamburger Hamlet on Sunset. Right. And did you ever meet him?
You know what? I never met him. I met Sinatra. I met a few times. I never got to meet Dean, but I adored him. I mean, his music, the movies, all of it, and I'm very close to his daughter Dina to this day, and she's really of everybody in the family. She's almost like the heir apparent to him in a sense, especially of course he had the tragedy when his son Dean died, and that's if I had to pick, 5 of my favorite roles I've done in my life, that would have been one of them.
You've I mean, it's pretty amazing. You came out of Chicago. I always thought you were with Steppenwolf when you studied, but you weren't. You were with the
Organic Theater Company. Dennis Franz, Meshack Taylor, John Hurd. There were Chicago was kind of known for it, especially back then, of having these theater companies. There was Steppenwolf, which I've worked with almost all of them, not all of them, but I've worked with certainly the core group, many of them over the years, like Malkovich and Joan Allen and Gary Sinise and them. Then there was another group called the Remains Theater, I believe, and that was with Bill Peterson and Gary Cole, and we were at the Organic. So there were a lot of different theater companies, and this was in the early 70s and beyond. And many of us then went on to do a lot of other things. And then there's Mamet, of course.
How did you meet David Mamet? How did that happen?
That was kind of, again, I was working at the Organic Theater at the time, doing plays there. And I remember I had been a student at the Goodman School of Drama, which at the time was in the Art Institute of Chicago. And I do remember going there one day. This was probably in 1972, 73. And I'm going there to visit some old teachers, to say hello. And I'm going down the stairs because it was underground. Because on that side in Chicago, that side of Michigan Avenue, you can't build things over a certain height. That's why it's such a beautiful, vista. And I remember there was a guy coming up the stairs, and he was dressed kind of natty, nice dressed, and I was dressed like like I'm going to a garbage man convention or something. And he comes up and he sees me, and he goes, "Oh, Joe Mantegna." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I just saw you in this play, whatever play I'd done at the Organic that week." He said, "Yeah, I think I really liked you." He says, "Someday maybe you and I work together. You do one of my plays." And he introduced himself. His name was David Mamet. And the reason he was there, he was trying to peddle his stuff to the Goodman, to try to get them to do some of his stuff. He was an aspiring playwright who had just come in from Cabot, Vermont, where he used to teach, and he was from Chicago, and now was wanting to come back to Chicago and try to make it as a playwright. And I shook his hand like, "Oh yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, sure." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, sure, we'll do one of your plays someday." And that's how we first met. It was that kind of inauspicious meeting. But from that point on, Organic Theater was one of the theaters he approached to maybe do some of his stuff. And ironically, I didn't do the first thing he offered the Organic Theater to do, which was Sexual Perversity in Chicago.
Oh my God.
At the time it was during the summer break of our theater company, where we made no money at that theater. We were lucky to make $20 a week. But so in the summertime, when we ran out of grant money, everybody would go off and do whatever they can get to make money. And I'd gotten cast as the understudy to Lenny in the play Lenny that was being done downtown Chicago. So I could get like $250 a week, which was like a fortune. And so when Stuart Gordon, the director of the Organic, says, "Hey, we're going to do this play by this guy, David Mamet. He'd like you to play this one role, one of the two lead roles." I said, "Oh God, I would love to," but and I read it, I thought it was really good. But I said, I can't. I'm an understudying, and I got a part in this. I'm making $250 a week. I can't come back for $20. I mean, we'll do another one of his plays maybe someday. Thank God he didn't hold a grudge, Mamet. But then what he did is he wanted to hear this play he had written. He wanted to just hear it. So he came to our theater and asked myself, actor Jack Wallace, and another actor, Brian Hickey, if we would read his new play so he can hear it. And that was American Buffalo. And I remember we all read that for him. And then we finished it and say, "Well, great. What do you guys think?" And of course, I'm thinking, "Yeah, I think it's good." I mean, I maybe fiddle around with the ending or something, stuff like that. Little knowing that he was going to, but thank God along the way, he would always call me. We would do little things together in Chicago, like readings at the library. Then I did the world premiere of A Life in the Theater in Chicago with Mike Nussbaum, that 2-character play. Of course, now that then went to New York. We used to call it the Chicago Shuffle. You do something in Chicago, but then they'd go to New York and they'd hire New York guys, and you just get, "See you later."
Right.
But thank God, Mamet wasn't one of those guys, and so ultimately, as he got some prestige and obviously his renown as a playwright, he had the juice to be able to say, especially when Glengarry came up, they wanted all these big name stars to do that play. He said, "Let's go with some of the guys that I know," which is why I did it, why J.J. Johnston did it, why Jack Wallace did it. Half of the guys were ex-convicts, but it didn't matter. It was like, these were Dave's guys. And we did that play. And it probably was the last time on Broadway, certainly the last time a Pulitzer Prize winning play maybe had nobody's name above the title. We were all nobodies. From that point on, Broadway became very star driven in many ways, which is, it's the way it goes. But I feel very blessed that I was able to do what I did with him. And to this day, I mean, Dave and I are still very, very close. And it's very lucky. I feel like that guy that, back in Shakespeare's time that, "Hey, Jimmy, you want to play Hamlet?" Yeah, sure, Bill. That kind of
Yeah, I mean,
thing.
he's I guess notably America's greatest playwright. I mean, he's one of
Well,
them.
to some minds, certainly one of them, without question. I mean, certainly been very good to me.
So we got to take a break, believe it or not, but it's not going to be long. And I got beyond
Okay.
I got a lot to talk to you about. I mean, Godfather 3, More Criminal Minds, a little more critical, Richard Pryor, and most importantly of all, Fat Tony on The Simpsons. Most importantly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we'll be right back. All right. This is something that's actually important to me. I have many people in my life and have had many people in my life that had mental health issues. And out in the world, especially with social media, you see a lot of mental health issues and you want to help them. And I have done a lot of therapy and a lot of self-reflection. And there is a service now that I would have loved to have taken advantage of when I was younger. And it's called BetterHelp. And the question I have is, does something interfere with your happiness? Is something preventing you from achieving your goals? I've had many things that prevent me from achieving my goals because, I'm an unusual, complex person. You can achieve your goals. You can get things done. And BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can connect in a safe and private environment online, and it's so convenient you can start communicating in under 48 hours. This is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. You can send a message to your counselor anytime. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all without ever having to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room, especially now where we don't even want to go into a waiting room. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can find the particular expertise you need online. Don't limit yourself to the counselors located near you. Licensed professional counselors who are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflicts, LGBT matters, grief, self-esteem. Anything you share is confidential. It's convenient, professional, affordable, and you can check out the testimonials posted daily on their site. This is not a crisis line, by the way, but in fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So I want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor, BetterHelp, at betterhelp.com/Bob. That is BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. So it's betterhelp.com/Bob. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bob. Thank you. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
That's it. We're back.
Great. And I learned a lot about all those things.
Didn't it? Isn't it great to have sponsors? Okay,
yeah.
So you've done a lot of movies that I just loved, and I really loved Searching for Bobby Fischer a lot when you did that. So
yeah, that's a wonderful film.
That movie,
you get lucky. Sometimes you get lucky, like you get those scripts that they don't come every day. But that was a script. Steve Zalian. The next thing he wrote was Schindler's List.
Right.
So everything came together on that film. I felt, that's a film I too feel just a lot. Well, it starts with the script and then you cast it well, hopefully, and it all comes together.
People should see that movie, especially if they're Gen X and Gen Z, whatever's next.
Right.
If they like Queen's Gambit, I mean, it's like the basics of what it is to watch a movie about chess and you're not feeling it's about chess,
Exactly. No, exactly. It's funny. I remember, I forget who it was. I think it was Sports Illustrated. They named it one of the 10 best sports movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting, because in a way it is. In other words, the world it's about is the sport, if you want to call it, of chess. But as you said, it's not a chess movie. It's about this boy and life and this family and all of it.
It's a beautiful
winning and losing and all of it.
Right. So just to go to your favorite sport would be baseball and it would be the Cubs, that would be just hands down where you live.
Yeah. Thank God they finally won the championship. I remember my mother was 100 when she was 99. No, she was going to be 100 when they finally won in 2016. And I remember I was being interviewed when they were going into the World Series, and they were saying, "So what do you think?" And I said, "Look, they got to get out of it." I said, my mother was born in 1950, so the Cubs were on an 8-year losing streak when she was born, which was true because they last won in like 1907. So thank God then they won the championship. My mom lived like another year, and she was able to say, "See you later" to the Cubs, so yeah, all the Chicago teams. They wrote that skit for me, the Bears, when I hosted Saturday Night Live.
Right.
I did the original the Bears, so I was the first actually human being to utter that phrase, on that show. And then of course George Wendt came in and played my brother for many episodes. I came back, did one more with Danny DeVito, I think, but anyway, yeah, I like
that was so funny, so memorable. I mean, it's classic television moment too. Mm-hmm. Because it's real.
Yeah, oh yeah. And we didn't know it was going to take off like it did, that whole thing about the Bears. Now you go to Chicago and you'll see signs, the Cubs, the Bulls, DePaul University. I mean, it's like everything is duh.
Well, I don't want to digress again because I was going to go the chair, but we'll get to that.
The chair, yeah.
The chair, you named that, but then that was pre-SNL. But Wrigley Field, to go to Wrigley Field, it's probably one of the greatest. Yes, Yankee Stadium's amazing. I love the Dodgers. I love pretty much all baseball teams. I love baseball, but there's something about being right in the neighborhood, and you could hit one into someone's house if you're that good. An athlete.
Oh yeah, I've seen it happen. I saw baseball hit a window, and then you always wondered why they always would have their Venetian blinds. Remember back in those days they had those things, Venetian blinds with metal blinds. And I was just to wonder, why do they always have their blinds closed? They could be watching it's not a bad place to watch the game from through your house. And I realized if you're not home, you better keep those blinds down because there might be that chance when the baseball hits your window. And if your kid is sitting by the window, you may have a million shards of glass in his head. So. And I saw it happen once. I saw a window get broken.
But you still like the White Sox because you can't not.
Oh yeah, no, I do. Especially as you get old, when you're a kid, you go, "Now I'm a Cub fan, I'm a Sox fan, and never the twain shall meet." You get older, and you're just like, "Hey, you want anybody from Chicago to win?" And the White Sox, especially, I love because they're very big supporters of I'm the spokesperson for Easter Seals Chicago. They have an autism school there, and it's not. I make no bones about it. I have a 33-year-old daughter with autism, and so. I've been they're kind of like their spokesperson for Easter Seal Chicago, and the White Sox have been very strong in promoting that particular organization, and so just that alone. And in fact, here this is kind of funny. Here's me and Ozzie Guillen back when he was managing the White Sox.
That's fantastic.
He was such a character, and I remember going to Comiskey Park with him. Might have been, I still call it Comiskey Park. They changed the name over the years. But I remember we were there, and the governor of Illinois was with us, and he was such a huge White Sox fan. And all he wanted to do was meet Ozzie Guillen. But Ozzie, being Ozzie, all he wanted to talk about was, are the White Sox going to pony up for this school? So the governor would be going, "Oh, Mr. Guillen, so what a thrill. Since I was a boy, I've been a White Sox fan." And Ozzie would be going, "Yeah, man, I know, but you're going to give the $1 million for the school. That's what I want to know. You said you're going to do it, man. So you got the money. Write the check. Come on, write the check now." And the governor's like looking around like, "Yeah, but Ozzie, maybe I could get a baseball." "Yeah, okay, but where's the check for the kids?" And I thought, at that point on, I love the White Sox.
Did you ever do the 7th inning stretch there? Take me out to the ball game?
Yeah, I've done it. Well, I've done it for the Cubs. Tom Dreesen and I think we it goes back and forth who holds the record because we do it every year. I've probably done it 15, 16, I don't know how many times for the Cubs. I did it once for the White Sox. I've done it for the California Angels because a good friend of mine is the president of the California Angels. So I've done it there, and it's always fun because I'm a baseball fan like you. I love the Cubs. That's my team.
I'm lucky enough to have sung the national anthem twice. Once for the Angels and once
the
for
anthem.
and for the White Sox.
The anthem?
The national anthem.
Oh no, the anthem I haven't done. The seventh inning
I
stretch
was
is
able to
different.
do it. I do sing. I used to always, I
God
still do in
bless
my
you, man.
stand-up. I didn't go flat, but I don't modulate. I don't do a lot of tricks.
No.
There's no
Bro, that's
tricks.
great.
I can hold a
Right.
note, but Angels, if
Yeah.
you do it at Angels at their stadium, they literally fire off rockets ray glare of
Right.
fireworks.
No, I know
And
that.
that's distracting if you're singing the thing.
Well, yeah. Especially if one gets wayward.
It just comes, it's worse than a baseball through your window.
Yeah.
And then the White Sox, I was doing a gig in Chicago and they said, "You want to sing the anthem?" And so on the way to my hotel, I went from the airport, which is not best for your voice, and I sang it. And I was on the cover of not the Tribune. What's the other one? The one that looks
Chicago
more like
Sun-Times.
Yeah, exactly.
Chicago Sun-Times.
And
Yeah.
so that
Great.
was it was I didn't screw it up, but
No, that's great. I've done the anthem one time, but it wasn't at a baseball game. It was a racetrack. It wasn't Formula One, but it was the next thing, Formula Atlantic, I
right.
think it's called, and it was that. And I was doing a movie in Chicago, and they had this raceway. It used to be a racetrack for horses out in Cicero, where I kind of went to high school and grew up for part of my life. And they turned it into a high-speed racetrack. And I remember Paul Newman. It was Paul Newman's car that he sponsored, that car that won the race. But I remember singing the national anthem for that particular race, and that was the only one in time. That's a difficult song, and I mean, I did musicals, as you know. I did Hair, I did Godspell, I did working on Broadway, Studs Terkel's play. So I had a background in musicals, but singing the national anthem is like that's not easy.
The key for me is start low.
Yes, me too. Oh,
exactly.
Get in there low. So
what's your lowest note that you can hold? Start as lurch.
Yeah, talk about Fat Tony. I go to my Fat Tony thing. Oh, hello.
Okay, so
I don't get mad, I get stabby.
That's the line. Say that one more time in the clear.
I don't get mad, I get stabby.
That's stopped me in my pants. Now, I've seen it for years. I mean, who doesn't worship The Simpsons? My wife is, that's her religion, basically. One of them. But she loves The Simpsons.
Yes.
And Fat Tony, and she knows that we've been friends for years and she can't wait to meet you.
Right.
And Fat Tony, that she just goes, "Are you kidding? It's Fat Tony." It depends on the generation, I know.
And when I did the first one, I just thought it was going to be a one-shot deal.
This is 17 years ago, 30 years ago.
Oh, 30 ago. No, it was, Godfather 3 had just come out. It was the movie came out in 1990, Christmas 1990. It was February of 91 when they called me to come they were only in their third season of The Simpsons. So they called me to play this character. And I'm sure they called me because I had done Joey Zaza, and Godfather 3 was a very high-profile gangster in the high-profile movie, and they figured, he'd be a good choice. So I read the script. I saw a couple Simpson episodes. I said, this looks like fun. It's great, sure. Thinking it's going to be this one-shot deal. Let's do it. Little did I know, we did the first one. They called me and said, "Hey, would you consider doing another one?" Oh, hell yeah, I had a good time. Look now, it's the longest-running role I've had in my life, 30 years plus, and
it looks like it was 17 appearances. That's where I'm wrong.
That's maybe what it was.
That's what
maybe
it is.
And it's been more than that now. Even that's probably dated in terms of.
Yeah, you just did new ones, right?
Yeah, I do them every year. Even during the COVID, what they do is they a lot of the cast probably already have home studios, but they actually I have a house out in the ocean, out in Ventura County. They sent a guy there with this portable, like a studio. They set it up. You're probably familiar with it. And it's baffles and microphones, and they give you the instructions. And I had my assistant set it up, and you do it virtually. They're running. I see on the computer screen. I could see the engineer and stuff. But I've recorded 3 or 4 episodes that way since the COVID.
There's something about Fat Tony because no one can give a line reading on where you put the accent in a sentence, because you think if you read it as written, it would just be a normal thug. And I know that you approached it as, no, this is a guy that's going to kind of like how you did Joey Zaza in a way.
Yeah, I mean, also I based Fat Tony's voice. When I first got the job, I didn't. You got to understand, Godfather 3 had just come out a couple of months prior, and I thought to myself, I don't want to be Joey Zaza in this cartoon.
Right.
I don't want to be that yet, and I didn't want to be me. And I thought, so what do I do? And so I had to make a snap decision where to, because nobody told me what to do. I mean, they let you go to give you the script and they're ready to record. So I channeled my Uncle Willie. That's the guy I talked to, because my Uncle Willie talked like this. He had throat cancer, and they took out one of his vocal cords, and so he always talked like this. So I said, for fun, I'll do this. And so I did it. We started the first episode of The Simpsons that I did, and I when I got to my first line, whatever it was like, yeah, hi, how you doing? My name is Fat Tony, whatever it was. And nobody said stop. So I said, all right, I'll just keep doing it. And that's where that came from. Now, I remember years later, maybe 20 years later, I bring my Uncle Willie to the studio. At this point, Simpsons is huge. They have their own sound stage. But the first one we did, we were in a basement at Fox with a ping pong table. I mean, we were nobody. Now, Simpsons was like running 20th Century Fox. I bring my Uncle Willie, and I said, I want you to meet somebody. This is the guy. He's my inspiration. And then, of course, he looks at everybody and goes, yeah, how you doing? My name's Willie. Nice to see you. And they were like, oh, my God, he lives. He lives.
Literally based on a real man.
Yeah, based on a real man. It's my homage to my dear Uncle Willie.
But it's so funny how you say something and you take a word and spin it, and it's a Simpson-esque way that they do things. Do they ever give you direction to give another take? Do they ever do a line reading and say, emphasize this word, bend that word? Because it's when he bends a word's accent of how he emphasizes that just there's the laugh sometimes besides a great line.
No, I agree. Well, I still know these are very talented people. Yeah, each episode does have a director, and if they'll throw stuff at you, and you'll go, oh yeah, and you'll give that a whirl. But hopefully, you got to bring something to the table, obviously. And let's face, look, with my background, where I grew up, and the people I was around, and the people I'm related to, it wasn't a big stretch for me to speak that language. That's the thing about Mamet. That's why God bless him, and God, so fortuitous for me that I would run into a playwright like that, because he wrote, the way I put it is, he writes in the lingo of which I speak. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, when I do Shakespeare, it's a task. I have to but I read stuff like that Mamet writes. It's like, yeah, I talk like that. I get it. You know what I mean? So Fat Tony for me is like, I understand that vernacular.
Well, I want to digress one more time back to Critical Condition.
Yeah,
because you had a line.
Yep.
It was the thing where Richard Pryor was an ex-con. He escaped to prison, and then he sought on Rikers Island. He left Rikers and came to Staten Island, where a hospital was. That's the idea, I think. Whatever island it was.
One of those islands, yeah.
Yeah. And so he pretends he's a doctor. And so he's an imposter. Right. And I became I was the young doctor that would do whatever was gross. I had to put my hand up someone's ass, or Garrett Morris. I had to hold Garrett Morris's balls, and he's telling me to squeeze harder. And then I got to work with you. We got to go to dinner. We went to dinner with Richard. I mean, it was, and working with Richard, I mean, everybody always wants to know about Richard. So do you have any takeaway, any Richard stuff?
Yeah, I mean, Richard, he was, it was after, as you know, it was after the thing with the fire, and so he'd have to wear these shirts buttoned up to the neck and sleeves down to here, because he had scar tissue, basically all over his body. And I remember, I remember when we went to his, do you remember the Kentucky Derby? We all went to his hotel room.
I didn't go. I had left.
Oh, you didn't go to that?
I left early.
Oh, you were already done. You had left finished. I remember going to his hotel room on the Kentucky Derby, and he had a bookie friend in L.A., so we all were able to go in his room and make bets. And he's on the phone with his bookie, and he's going to get $20. Nothing big, $20 on this, $20 on that, $20 on that. And so we all watched the Kentucky Derby in his room, and so then we're having a good time. Then I remember a movie came on of Scarface with Al Pacino, and it just happened to be on. This came on, and it was, or maybe they switched channels and it was on. So we're all just still hanging around. Might have been like Ruben Blades might have been there, D'Alessandro, I don't know what other cast members. We're all just hanging out, and of course Richard's guy, his
Rashad.
Rashad,
yeah.
But I remember that scene came on the screen
Or
where
Rashad.
Pacino's got that pile of cocaine. There's that scene in Scarface where there's that big pile of cocaine.
Yeah.
Like Pacino's face falls into it, boom.
Right.
And I remember that came on the screen, and we're all like, because we knew that Richard was like, had been through this thing, and really, from you always heard how he just he cleaned up his act, that he had been, it was no secret he had dabbled in things prior to that.
Yeah.
And I remember he had this look on his face, and it was almost like a sadness. And I remember him saying, "Oh man, that was in front of me right now. I don't know what the hell I would do." You know what I mean? And it was such a, it broke my heart in a way, because I felt like there was a guy that was just like, had been through so much, and such a talent. And I knew that was one of the demons that he obviously had to, overcome. And just to be able to kind of be candid about that and say that, I thought that said a lot about him, and I loved him for it. And then of course we got invited to his wedding.
Yeah.
And that was just wonderful. I mean, so I have nothing but love and respect and great memories of the time, with Richard.
He was a real gift, and
without question. I mean, I recently I have this play that I directed. I'm not a comedian. I'm Lenny Bruce, that we've done in L.A., New York. We're going to go back to Chicago once the COVID thing's over, because it was doing a very successful run up to then. But we do an homage even in there to Richard, in the sense of like, because knowing that Richard, that Lenny Bruce himself was like kind of helped pave the way for like Rich to
100%
that mantle, to pick it up, and Richard did it gangbusters. And I mean, it's so many of the comics today, as you know, owe so much initially to guys like Lenny Bruce, and then after that, Richard Pryor just took it and ran with it to the next level. And he stands alone in that respect.
He did characters in his stand-up, and there were a lot of people that did. I mean, Nicholson May did it, Stiller and Mara did it, and Bill Cosby did it. And I understand he was mad at Richard for stealing his style or something, because Richard was doing like George Carlin. They started as button-down comedians on Ed Sullivan and the Tonight Show,
right.
but once Richard got to Johnny Carson show, he was Richard. He'd found that voice to tell the truth. And I was there was one scene that I couldn't do with him in Critical Condition. We did 40 takes. I don't know if you remember. I think you were there. It was when there was a storm, and it was a lot of extras, and everybody in the movie pretty much. And they brought a guy by on a gurney, and it was one of the actors. I knew him, and every time they brought him by, Richard and I were like 30 feet away from each other, but I had to do a line to him. He was like, "What happened to him?" And I'm like, I had like 3 lines. His body got washed up in the drink, and the hurricane threw him against the rocks, and I couldn't do it. Because every time I looked into his face, I saw those big eyes, and he couldn't look at me. So, and Michael Epstead, God bless him, he's not with us now.
Right.
And he just said, "No, we'll do another. We'll just do another." And it took about it was like an hour or an hour and a half just to do one shot of my side.
Right. It happened.
Well, it was my first movie. And here I am saying the line to Richard. But I was in a shower stall with him, and we had to wait to get called out into the scene. And he grabbed a brush, and it had sponge on one side and bristles on the other. And he said he always liked to go deep at times, just like he did with you with the cocaine scene in Scarface, and reflect on something. And he looked at me, and he showed me the hard part of this sponge, the bristles you would use as a scouring pad. He said, "This is what they used to take my skin off after I was burned." And I'll tell you, I was about to go into a scene, and it was I didn't have any jokes or anything. And it really served it, because it centered me, because here he was saying it to me, something that should have been confidential, but here I am saying it. But with all due respect, I don't think he would mind me telling
No,
this
not
story
at all. No,
because
no. It's important.
it's centered him, and it goes, how deep do you have to go to be able to be real in what you're about to do?
Exactly.
And it was just the zone we were in, and I was in a tiny little stall with the man, and that's, I think, when we became close. That's when that closed us. And then it, again, like, he's Richard Pryor and I was a struggling guy. So I would see him and we would always hug and be friendly, but later on was when I connected more with him. It's sad that he's gone. It's really sad, but
it is sad, but that Dr. Seuss line, don't cry, I paraphrase it. Don't weep because they're gone, but, laugh because they lived,
And he's in the middle of cancellation of books right now. I don't know if you saw the news.
I bet. No, I didn't realize he's been in there too. No.
Yeah, they're canceling Dr. Seuss for racial.
Dr. Seuss stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought you meant talking about Richard Pryor.
No,
I do.
Yeah, and it's like, you can't say anything. You can't get into it, and it's like.
No, I know. But we even have there's a whole part in the play. I'm not a comedian. I'm Lenny Bruce. New York, one of the New York papers did a whole thing about it when we were running in New York, because there's a controversial piece in it that he does about the N-word. But the thing is, it's Lenny Bruce doing it back in the 60s. And that was the whole point of the bit, to say that, words, the power of words. And yet, so that word gets used in that bit. But if you watch the bit, you realize it was Lenny Bruce's way of showing how crazy this all is, and that we got to get past all of this stuff and stuff like this. And it's like, so when you take it in that context, it's one thing. But then same thing, like even the book Huckleberry Finn. If you look at it in one context, it's what Mark Twain was trying to say about racism is totally the opposite of what people are saying. Oh my God, you're saying this thing and you're doing this thing, so this is totally bad. It's like, God, open your mind sometime and realize what a person's intent was.
They also don't know the story that really well, which is what Lenny Bruce went through. So there's decades of becoming the comedian, and then many, many years of just fighting it all. It's, the trial of freedom of speech,
exactly.
and having documents of things people said about him. And it has that McCarthyism feel, and it has that feel of what we're living through right now, which is
right.
It's something we don't need. And it's something our culture goes through because so many people are getting away with stuff as they think, or they want to rewrite history. Mel Brooks says he can't do Blazing Saddles as a play on Broadway because there was talk of it. He did. Right. So he did the producers and he did Young Frankenstein. And I talked to him about it, and he's like, I can't do it but it's an anti-racist movie.
Exactly. That's the whole, right. And that's what I mean. It's like, you might as well get rid of satire. You might as well get rid of,
people don't know what satire is anymore. They don't understand it.
No. I blame our educational system. I really do. I think we're just dumbing down in many ways. We're just, we're coming out a nation of knuckleheads in many ways.
I agree. And I think the pandemic has not helped, because people that I guess are of high intellect are staying home.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
They're not out trying to bring back the Amish movement. I don't know. Let's go back to 1845 when things were right, when there was no penicillin.
Right.
Here, put on this outfit and this Viking helmet. I have to ask you also. We have to talk about Joey Zaza. We have to talk about Godfather 3, and your experience with it. I just want to know what it was like to get the info. I know how you got it, which is an amazing story that you found out you were in it.
Oh yeah, from the restaurant guys. Yeah. It was I remember it was a Friday night. My wife had asked me to go pick up some, linguine around the Italian restaurant around the corner, which was that at the time was that restaurant where Robert Blake, supposedly hid the pistol, but whatever. That's all I ever saw.
Right. So
I go there, and I knew the owners, and I knew I was up for the role. they were considering me for this role in Godfather 3, which for me was exciting, but I hadn't heard anything. So I go in there, and the owner of the go joint looks at me and goes, Joe Mantegna, you're going to be in Godfather 3. I go, what? He goes, yeah, you're going to be in Godfather 3. Congratulations. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, come on, Joe, come on, it's me. And I'm saying, well, I'm being, because I know, why do you say that? He goes, why do I say that? My cousin who works in the casting office in New York, he calls me, he says that they put your picture up on the wall next to you. Pacino, or you, or Joey Zaza, is you. He says, Joe Mantegna, I know, he calling me because he knows that you come at the restaurant. And I go, oh, wow. I go, well, there might be, I don't know. I'm glad to hear that they're thinking maybe they just, and I leave and I run home, and I call my agent at home because it's at night. It's 7 o'clock at night, whatever. I said, hey, the pizza guy just told me I'm in the movie. He goes, oh, yeah, I just got the call. I was just going to call you. He says, they just called me from New York. I said, great. Well, obviously the Italian wire service is a lot better than the normal one, so that's how I found out.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And that,
but it was,
how do you feel about the recut? Is there stuff, the one that he did, that Coppola did last year? Is it?
You know what? I still haven't seen it. They sent it to me.
I haven't either.
It's called the Coda, the Death of Michael Corleone.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I look forward to seeing it, and I will. But I'll see. But for me, again, like I said, I enjoy more the process than I do of watching the result. So in other words, for me, the everything about Godfather 3, what I loved about the experience was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The movie's going to be the movie. For me to watch it, when I watch movies that I've been in, often what happens is I start to think, oh yeah, that was the day. Oh yeah, that night we all went out to such and such to dinner or whatever. I'm not thinking of stuff related to making of that film as opposed to the story itself. But I'll look forward to seeing it. And I mean, look, Coppola, God bless him. If you're going to allow any director to have the privilege to go back, take something and fiddle with it and try to make it in his mind better, then absolutely let them do it. So I look forward to seeing what he felt he needed to do. And that's it. I mean, why not? That'd be like telling Shakespeare after he finished, writing a play. And he says, you know what, let me go back. I'd like to change something. You go, no, it's fine like it is. Well, what do you know?
Bill, it's already been printed.
Bill, please, exactly.
We made the 200 copies.
Yeah, come on. That's going to cost us some money. So, no, it's fine. I think that's great.
So what, I mean, everybody is interested what the relationship was like working. Had you known Al Pacino before you did that movie?
I didn't know him, but I met him because, well, first of all, I think, if I'm not mistaken, both Al Pacino and Robert De Niro were the two of the actors that were asked first to play Ricky Roma in the original play, Glengarry Glen Ross, in 1984. But they both turned it down for whatever reason. They were busy. They were huge stars. It makes sense. And ultimately, then, of course, Al did the movie. He wasn't playing Ricky Roma in the movie, but he was offered to play first. But there were instances that year in New York, and between '84 and the time we did Godfather 3, that there would be, certain playwrights would want to hear readings of plays or movies or plays, whatever it may be, both. And there were a couple occasions where I think both Al and I went and did readings for certain playwrights or screenplay writers. So I'd met him, and he was always very cordial and very nice. And in fact, I remember, God bless Al Pacino, because I remember when the movie came out of Glengarry, and he got a nomination, for the role. And I saw, there was one TV interview I happened to catch of him, and he happened to mention it. He said, "Oh, thanks very much." He says, "I love doing the movie, and I enjoyed it back in the day when I saw Joe Mantegna do the role on Broadway." And he didn't have to say that. I mean, he didn't have to mention that. So I mean, he was a real stand-up guy that way. And then when we did the movie, what I loved about Al is, he was a theater guy. He had a similar background as mine. I did 15 years of theater before I ever really got into the movies.
Right.
And he was up for doing improv and doing little things in the scene. Like Coppola would say, he would say, do the scene again and do it in your own words. You guys know what the script is. Make up the dialogue and let's just see what it looks like. And not knowing that he's actually filming it. but we would do that. And Al was, he's right in there. He's game, and he'd give as much as he would take, and all that, and vice versa. And so I had nothing but respect for him, and he's a great, he's a wonderful actor. So, and De Niro, same thing. I've had the privilege to meet with him and spend a little time with him. And I mean, look, these are successful Italian actors, and I'm just happy to be, fit in there somewhere. I made a living at it. So
well, more than that, what you did with Joey Zaza, I mean, you came in with that quality of being so menacing with so much grace. The fury was in there, but it didn't really come out till later. I mean, it was
that was intentional. That was intentional.
Was that your thought or Coppola's thought?
That was my thought, and I think what it is Coppola let it go. In other words, Coppola figured that's what he wants to do, and he obviously approved. Otherwise, what I didn't want Joey Zaza to be is I didn't want it to be the obvious thing. I didn't want to be one of these dumb and those guys. Like, you know what I mean? There's enough of that stereotype. And the way I looked at it, I often try to emulate it. Like I said, the analogy of baseball. When I played Joey Zaza, and especially when we did that scene around the table, and we passed around a tray with trinkets for each guy to pick out of.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I had to think to myself, Coppola is like bringing, and I know he kind of thought this way, of like, he thought of this as like, this is a table of, okay, they're having a big meeting, powwow of all these gangsters, but then let's put it in the context of we in the past, and it's like the Roman Empire, and this is like, this is like Nero or Caligula or something with all of the Senate, and it's that same kind of thing. So my feeling was I wanted Joey Zaza to be that guy that thought of himself as being much classier than anybody else, that being, he in his dress, in his speech, the way he would even cross his legs, the way he would hold his hands, the way he would gesture, the respect he would give everyone, but that when needed, when pushed to that thing, he can revert. Like it would be like having a beautiful Afghan dog. Afghans, they got that beautiful look. They look so regal, but then all of a sudden, get that Afghan that maybe has got rabies, and then all of a sudden, in 1 second, it'll bite you in the throat and kill you. You know what I mean? Because that's what their nature. He's got this thing. So that's how I thought of Joey Zaza. So I wanted him to have this, even if it came off like odd, that he had this class and control, but that every once in a while he can revert to being, be careful, I got teeth.
Oh, it didn't come off out at all. I mean, that's the success of it. That's why you've heard it your whole career, I think, since that movie came out, because everybody that knows the technique is to really bring people in. You do it quietly. You don't.
Well, you find that out, and that's the thing I even learned, especially working as much as I did with Mamet, in the sense of that you find sometimes that stillness carries more power than activity.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, you can convey strength through. I mean, it's that whole process even when they do in martial arts, like that whole thing. It's not like not all about like. It's very often it's the, you got to worry about the quiet guys more than you worry about the guys that are saying, "I want to kill you." You got to worry about the guy that just says, "I'm going to kill you." That kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's finding that spot.
I'm very angry right now.
Exactly. That's the guys you got to worry about, right?
Well, there was one scene in your one of your biggest first things that was mine, and I always say it to you every time I see you in critical condition. You had said you got really mad. You were the head of the hospital, and the line it ends with, "And there's a helicopter in my fucking lobby." Can you? I'm doing a bad impression. Do you remember it? Do you remember the line?
I do remember it. I think you just said that. I think that was it, because I'd forgotten a lot about that movie because it was so long ago and I haven't seen it in so long. But it was funny. I think it was just on about a month or so ago, late at night. We're laying in bed and we're flipping around, and my wife flipped it on. She goes, "Oh, look, and it happened to be right at that moment." And I'm thinking to myself, and I said, "Wait." I says, I think I know where this is going. And I'm walking around, and as I pass each thing, I'm like, I'm further shocked. And And, and then finally I come up and I go, and there's a helicopter in my fucking life. And I remember I screamed it. And I mean, I was just like livid, you know. And you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know if that's the take they're going to use.
Well,
But I
you
do
stayed
remember-
consistent after a while, and every time you did it, I
Oh, yeah.
was in heaven. It was
Yeah.
that was the 15 years of theater right there.
Well, that's it, because I know how to project my voice.
Right.
And so I knew how to be able, my feeling was, make sure you say fucking lobby so they can hear it in the back row of the 2,000-seat theater, you know what I mean? And so I know the sound guy was probably going, oh, you know what I mean? But I know F had love, because he actually called me after, because I didn't go to dailies. They showed dailies of it that night. For some reason I was out or something. And he called me. He says, I just wanted to tell you I saw the dailies. And the scene I thought was, you know, he particularly liked that moment. And I said, okay, good, great. Glad it worked out.
Well, we got to take one more quick break and then we'll finish
Okay.
up so you can get another $100.
That's
Okay.
it, exactly.
We're gonna make $100 right now. So
Excellent.
okay, we made our money, so we're back.
Perfect. Okay.
So there's so much stuff, but there's one thing that flagged me when I was looking on your bio, that you received an honorary degree in psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology in 2008, and you were the commencement speaker. What warranted, besides I think you're a very wise person, that you got this degree in psychology?
I do not know. You know, it's my second doctorate. I got one from DePaul University, which I kind of understand because I went to school at the Goodman, which then became part of DePaul University, and I gave their commencement speech. And I gave the commencement speech for USC out here for the theater school. I was hoping to get a doctorate from them, but they said, no, we don't do that. And I said, well, maybe can I get a football that's signed by, I'm spacing on his name, the coach, Seattle Seahawks now.
Oh, the Seattle Seahawks coach is Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll, yeah. Yeah, because Pete Carroll was the coach of USC at the time. And I love Pete Carroll because I was doing the movie, or I was doing the TV series Joan of Arcadia at the time, which was this beautiful show about kids who spoke to God and all that. And he liked the show so much, he sought out Barbara Hall, who created the show, and wanted to take her to lunch and just talk about it. And Pete Carroll was one of those guys. He would get a truck and deliver food to the homeless on his own on weekends, kind of guy. He's a great guy. So anyway, I got a signed football from Pete Carroll for giving that commencement speech. But to go back to your question, why I got it from the Chicago School of Psychology. I mean, I thought it was very nice, and I think part of it was, some of it, at least in my commencement speech, I based it much of it on that, is part of it was about my life and being the parent of a special needs child,
right?
You know, and what it's like, the dynamics of, you know, we all, especially in our business, we all have these two lives. We have the life of us as the performer, what we do and what the public perceives us to be. And then, of course, our real life, which can be very different. You know what I mean? There's nothing to do. One has nothing to do with the other, but of course, they affect each other in many ways.
Yeah.
So for me, the crux of it was that, you know, psychology and that part of our daily life and our being and that subject matter is, you know, we all deal with it in different ways, and some of us, as I say, we play pretend for a living, which kind of makes it look like, oh my God, isn't that great? That must be so wonderful. Every minute of their life must be perfect, and it's like not necessarily so.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes the absolute opposite. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of, it came from that place of like, because I don't, one thing I've always said is I understand why people might envy who I am. I mean, I get that, because I look at it as a planetary thing. How many people are on this planet? And if you took a survey, and I know it's hypothetical, but let's say you asked every human being on the planet, we're going to give you a choice of being somebody, and you give them a choice of like 50 different people, and one of them is, and most of them would be that you would have to pick is, well, most people are actually, you know, are peasants who live in, you know, pick up rice in China, you know, that's because based on population.
Right.
And then you go down the list. I don't doubt that if you put my name on there or your name on there or anybody like of our profession, that we might be up there pretty much near the top 1% of like, yeah, God, if I could be somebody else, I'd like to be a successful actor in television and film and theater. That would be a great life to live. I get that. Every day I feel blessed to be able to say that. Yeah, there's that old joke of the best jobs in the world are to be a rock and roll star, a professional athlete, an astronaut, or an actor. But being an actor is the best because you can play the other three. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's that. So that's my thing about was go back again to the psychology thing. It's like, hey, I'm in a very blessed position here. I've had a great life. I continue to have a good life. I can't complain. And yet we all have to deal with COVID. Hey, boom, boom, with its problems.
Right.
Yes, I have a special needs child, but I'm in a position that I can deal with it a lot better than other people can. So
right.
we each have to take our life what it is and do the best we can within those circumstances.
You've also done so much for the veterans.
This will be my 20th year doing the National Memorial Day concert. And Gary Sinise and I are both very active with the military. God bless him with his foundation. I'm one of his ambassadors. But neither of us served, and we've often talked about it. And in a way, we feel this is us kind of making up for that in a way.
Right.
It was only luck of the draw that I didn't serve. I grew up in the Vietnam era. I was part of the draft. I tried to join the Marine Corps as a pilot. I flunked the eye test when I was 19. That's when I found out, that I needed glasses and contacts, whatever, because you can't be a pilot unless you have 20/20 non-correctable vision. So then when the draft came up, they had the lottery. I had a high number. My birthday was such that I was like I got lucky. My number was like out of 365 days, I was maybe 300. So they never got to my number. And I never thought twice about it. I was in acting school. I was like acting, doing the organic theater. It's like, yeah, okay, Vietnam. I guess that's not in the cards for me. But then later on, and then all my uncles fought in World War II. My dear friend Dennis Franz was a combat vet in Vietnam, right, and others. But I'm not political. I try not to get into politics because I have too much. Then you're saying I believe everything this side says, or I believe everything that side says, and I can't say that. So
no, neither can I. Neither can I.
And so I've been an independent my whole life, but I do support our military because at the end of the day, when shit hits the fan, we have to call upon others then to do the dirty work, and they are the ones that have to do it. And it's like, so we have to at least support them and be there for them. And not yours, there's always going to be a bad apple. You always hear about, and this guy was an ex-Army guy and he did this, and the ex-Navy guy did that. And yeah, of course there's going to be that. But at the end of the day, the discipline they teach and what they aspire to be and what they're there for, to protect and serve our nation and to die for. Go to all you have to do is go to one of these graveyards. I remember shooting this film in France, and I'm in this small town called Rambouillet. The movie was with George Hamilton and Danny Aiello. It was a comedy called Off Key. And so I drive into this beautiful little town in France, and I see an American flag flying next to a French flag. I'm going, what the hell is that? In the distance, I said, why is that there? And as we get closer, I see it's a small little tiny village cemetery about an hour and a half out of Paris. And I said, can we stop there? And I stopped there, and here is rows upon rows and rows of white gravestones. And the guy tells me, he says, oh yeah, this is an American cemetery, one of the ones we have here in France for Americans who died here. And I look at it and I'm thinking, this is not Arlington, this is in France, and it's not Normandy, it's this little town outside of Paris. And I'm thinking, look at all of those Americans that are laying here in France, who went here probably at 18, 19 years old, just because they wanted to help save the world from tyranny, and died, and here's where they're buried. They never got back. So who am I not to, to continue the support for those people like that, and that's where that comes from.
My cousin was in Vietnam, and he got sprayed by Agent Orange, and he came back, and it was a decade, 2 decades of deterioration. And they would try to help him at the Veterans Hospital, and it was just so tragic. And then you think about it and go, how people sacrifice themselves. And that war will always be insane. I mean, all war's insane, but
of course,
why was that one? one.
Well, yeah, because there was no like it didn't have a. I mean, World War II had a. You can look back and say we had an outcome. We had an outcome that was positive. That this happened.
Yeah, we had crimes against humanity.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And someone that wanted to take over the world. So.
Right.
Speaking of taking over the world, this is the worst segue you've ever heard in your life. So you did 13 years of Criminal Minds. You've been off now for a year and a half, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So now you have something new that I would imagine many things have been crossing your desk. So what can I look forward to?
Well, I'm very excited about this. We did our first cast read through yesterday. We did a Zoom thing where we did a couple of the episodes. Jason Katims, who did Parenthood and Saturday Night or Friday Night Lights, the shows, created the show. It doesn't have a title yet. It's still called the Untitled Jason Katims Project. But what attracted me to it when I first read the script is it's about 3 young adults on the autism spectrum who all live together, and then they have a live-in counselor who was played by Swosi Bacon, Kevin Bacon, daughter. And when I read the script, it just was so beautiful because it reflected so much of my life, of my wife and my experience with our 2 daughters, and especially my oldest daughter who has autism.
Right.
That this show gets into it, and since it's for Amazon, they don't pull any punches, so it's funny, but it's shocking, it's profane, it's real, it's everything. And and Jason is writing from the heart, and so when I read the pilot, I said, and this was over a year ago when I read the pilot, I met with them and I said, it's beautiful. I think it's tremendous. But they were going to shoot the whole series in Chicago, and I said, the only thing is, I'm not going to move to Chicago. My lifestyle's here, my family's here. We used to travel all over the world. I dragged the kids everywhere. They're adults now. I'm not going to be commuting back and forth. I said, if anything changes, call me. But I love it. And thank God, about 6 months later, they called and said, you know what? Jason wasn't that keen about being on location either for all that time. He said, they agreed to shoot the series in LA. You still want to do it? I said, I'm in. And
that's
now, in
so
retrospect,
wonderful.
Well, everybody's happy now because now we don't have to deal with and so we're shooting it all at Universal, most of it right here in the lot that is right near there. And it's a wonderful show. So it doesn't have a title yet. It will, but it's Jason Katims. It's based on a show out of Israel. I think that was called On the Spectrum, and it's just so beautifully done. And we did a read through of the 2. We're going to show the pilot, and then we're going to film 7 more episodes initially. And so we read episode 2 and 3 yesterday, and they were beautifully done. The actors really are on the spectrum. The 3 main actors who play these children, not children, young adults, they really are. And even our crew, they have something like 10, 12 something crew members who are all on the spectrum, and they're very sensitive to that. They have a person on the set, and it's so everything about it. I just love it. So we'll see what happens.
I can't wait to see it. That's so beautiful across the board.
It is really beautiful. And when I saw the pilot, I mean, I broke down in tears. I mean, it was like, there was one time when I really got immersed in something that I had done, in the sense of like, it's much bigger than, not my performance at all. It's just the whole thing. And then there's a lot of talk. I know people are all over the internet that Criminal Minds is coming back.
Yeah, I actually just saw that.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And because the show's streaming so strongly, and apparently there have been weeks when we were like the most streamed show in the world, apparently. Like on Mars, they're watching this fucking show. But I guess it might happen. I mean, I guess there's
how can you watch someone's face get sliced off while you're eating buffalo wings and having a shot?
Because when they say when they say cut, the guy with the slight face gets up and goes to craft services and gets a sandwich. Right. Everybody says, doesn't it freak you out to do that show? And I go, no. I said, talk to the guys who do the real job. Might freak them out. But when they say cut, the guy that's got the axe in his head, he goes like this. He goes, and then he goes, could somebody give me an OJ? It's like, as it's all. So we'll see. So that's where my
and all of your victims smell like rubber cement.
Yeah, exactly right. So I don't know. So if that comes back, that would be nice too. I had a good time on that show. We all still very close. Especially the last 8 of us on the cast.
Paget Brewster's I've known throughout my career. She's an angel.
an angel, an incredible human being, but I love them all. They've all been great, past and present cast. I had no problems with anybody. It was I maintain close contacts with just about all of them. And so if that happens, that'll happen. There's even talking about a thing called the Real Criminal Minds, which might be a kind of like taking the real stories and seeing, what some of the shows were based on real things, something like that. I might be involved with that as well. So
people love those shows, man. They love that crime documentary reenactment stuff.
Right. So I got plenty on my plate. I feel very blessed. And in the meantime, I had both my shots. So,
you're good to go.
It's the one advantage of being over 65.
Right.
I was right up near the top of the line, So good to go. So God bless the planet. Hopefully we're all moving in the right direction.
I know we are. I feel it, and everybody's kind of feeling it, but they're guarded because if you turn on the news, it tells you something different every second to scare you more.
Right.
But I do think we're going to come out of it this year, and it's going to be a better world. I think that alone.
You're right. You learn from adversity, if nothing else. You know what I mean? You really do, and I think we will have learned something, and we'll profit by it. That's what evolution is.
It's evolution. It's a crazy reset that all of us being spoiled for so long.
Right.
Not all of us. Many not spoiled. That's why so much other stuff came up during this time.
Right.
So I always call it failing forward,
Yeah, that's true. Well, you got to get through the pain. You're right.
You're the first person that told me, and I'm trying to remember if it was a David Mamet line, but you said to me, and it might be Shakespeare also, but I don't pick in the way you said it, which is we play the cards we are dealt.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of live that as a philosophy of my life, but yeah, I don't know where I got. I mean, I probably read that somewhere, and I often say it, but the thing I often say with it is, everybody's got a story, and nobody gets a free ride, and that's part of it too. So in other words, they put those all together.
Bus drivers.
Yeah, well, a little bit. And my grandfather, who worked for the CTA in Chicago, would get on, he'd show his pass, he'd get on for free. But I usually put those three things together. It's like, everybody's got a story. Nobody gets a free ride. You play the cards you're dealt, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's all good. I'll take that. I'll take the deck I got.
Beautiful mantras, and it helps. It helps to be able to look at the world a little bit from the outside. It's like it's your story. It's not
right.
The moments people live in that they're terrified and living in fear, and that does nothing but cause ill health and ill mental health and all of the things that are hurting so many people.
Right. And one positive quote would be, and of course it's a positive quote, so now I'm forgetting it. Oh, I know what it is. Everything in moderation, including moderation. So that's the other one.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Joe, I'm so happy to talk to you. Thanks for doing the podcast.
Bob, I love you to pieces, pal. Like you are one of those, like I said, as I said earlier, we met how many, I can't even think the math, how many years ago that is now, 1985.
86.
So what is that, 40 plus years? Right? But neither of us are good at math, so it doesn't matter. It's a long time ago.
On this one, we choose not to be good at math.
We choose not to be good at math. I knew you when you were a boy. Let's put it that way. You were a young boy on the set. And now we're men, and I'm an older man, and you're a nice not even middle-aged.
You're a middle-aged man by the new standards. I mean, I'm friends with Norman Lear. He's going to be 99.
That's true. Yes, but to me, I'm 73. 73 is the new 73. Is the way I look at it. That's it. I don't know what the hell that means.
No, you're a 62. You're 10 years younger.
Yeah, whatever. I think I play a little younger. But anyway, Bob, I love talking to you. I love spending this time with you. This is the first time we spent this much time in how many years?
I know. That's why I'm doing the podcast, because it's
great
to connect with you. I mean, I could have said let's FaceTime and have a glass of wine, and it's like, well, that seems kind of weird.
But the good thing is we're going to be able to do it. Now, next time we meet, we'll be able to do it for real. And
I can't
pick
wait.
Up where we left off.
I'm gonna bring Kelly, and we'll be with Arlene, and I'm gonna bring 2 Post-its that say I need $100. Just be safe, and I love you a lot.
Love you too, Bob. Take care. I had a great time.
Thank you. Me too, Joe.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How much do you love that man? And I'm lucky to know the man, and I think we're all lucky to see his work, and I look forward to his new show that he's going to be doing about people with autism, and it's so near and dear to his heart. And his heart is so big and beautiful. And what a great actor, and what a dear, dear friend. And he does, even though he's from Chicago, he enjoys deep dish, but he really loves a New York slice. I just want to put it out there. I heard him say it on Colbert. Forgot to talk to him about it because pizza is an important subject. But anyway, do what you do with this thing. Rate, review, subscribe, follow, I don't know, Swatcher, Twitcher, Apple, Spotify. I just say words, just blurt them out. And I'll be back. And because I'm never stopping doing this because I love it in every way. And I hope you are having an okay time and doing better as we're moving forward. Thanks again to just one of the dearest people I've ever known in my life, Joe Mantegna. And I'll see you next time on Bob Saget's Here For You.